Thank you for joining me again. My name is Michael Williams, and we've been talking about how you can make changes to your speech and or any other area of your life. And so I'm giving you basically 3 steps or 3 things that you need to think about, 3 questions that you must ask yourself when you're trying to make a change. And one of those questions is, what am I trying to change? What actually am I trying to change? What does it look like? We talked about that in the previous video. The second step is, why do I want to change this? Why do I need to change this? And then the third question, the third step, is how do I change it? What are the steps that I need to take to make this change? So we'll be looking at the second step, the second question, which is, why do I want to change this? And often the why is more important than the how. Let me say that again. Very often, asking and answering the question why you want to do something and knowing clearly your motives, your desires, why you want, your reasons for doing something can be more important than knowing the how, at least initially. So this is a model that I developed probably more than a decade ago now, and I'll be doing a separate video on this, but I want to run through this now because it's a model that has helped me to take a deep look at my reasons for doing certain things, and it's called MAP-IT, M-A-P, and really we're going to be focused on the M-A-P of things, not the it. I just call it MAP-IT. So the M stands for meaningful or meaning. So you want to ask yourself, is what I'm about to do meaningful to me, right? Is it important to me? What's the purpose? What's the reason why I really want to do this? And the second part of the question is it meaningful? Will it be meaningful to someone else? How will it impact? How can it transform the life of someone else? Will it be meaningful to someone else? We'll talk briefly about why those 2 questions, those 2 perspectives are important to hold. So you ask yourself, is this meaningful to me? So I remember probably 30 years ago now, when I began to work on my speech, I had this strong desire to be a public speaker, right? To do things that required me to speak. But at the time, I stuttered. And so that prevented me from getting out there and speaking up and speaking out as often as I would have liked. So a part of what drove me to work on my speech is that I found myself thinking about this fact. I'm never going to really be fulfilled. I'm never really going to do what I feel like I'm called to do if I can't speak well, right? If I can't speak well. So I thought about the story of Moses, and I won't go into that in this video, but we will take a look at that in the complete video series on MAP-IT. But I thought about Moses and how he was called, and he said, well, God, I can't really speak that well, so I don't think I can do this. And then the story goes on. And so I thought about that, and I said, well, if I really want to be fulfilled in my life, if I really want to maximize my potential, right, and I want to feel fulfilled and satisfied, and I want to be able to help other people, that's the second part of the meaningful, and I want to help other people, then I'm going to have to figure out a way around, over, and through this whole speech challenge. So I went on a journey to look for different ways, and lo and behold, I was introduced to Brian Tracy through a friend of mine. I started to listen to the videos or listen to the audio, watch some of the videos. I also had a second model named Charles Stanley. I began to study those guys, just stumbled upon what we call modeling. I said, wow, if I can just speak like these guys, then I can speak fluently. So let me just imitate them. Let me imitate how they speak. So I started to do that, and I was able to get up and start doing presentations and recording audio almost flawlessly. Now, the challenge was that I had a hard time translating that speaking style to my daily conversations, which I figured out some years later. I figured out how to do that. But it put me on a path to doing something that was very meaningful for me, right? In order for me to be fulfilled, to be happy, to do what I was called to do, I wanted to transform my speech, to make that change. So I had that meaning there that drove me, driving factor. The second part of the M has to do with, is it meaningful to someone else? So I thought about, hey, I'm called to use my voice to help other people. I won't be able to do that if I can't use my voice. So I have to figure out a way to be able to articulate my thoughts and to impact people and to help make a change in other people's lives. So it had to be meaningful both to me and to other people. When we're called to serve and help other people, that's also a huge driving factor. So let's take a look briefly at the A. The A stands for aptitude or ability. Like, do I have the ability to speak well? So I looked at that, of course, I have the ability to speak well. But when I compared myself with other speakers, I said, well, I just don't have that kind of energy, right? I'm not just, hi, hey, and hey, all right, yeah. That's just not my speaking style. In fact, there were kind of two people that I really liked, or two people that were out there that were huge at the time. One was Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins, and my guy was Brian Tracy. Completely different speaking styles. I gravitated more towards Brian Tracy than Tony Robbins. Just couldn't get into that speaking style. Many people do. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. It's great. A lot of it depends on your personality type. So I figured out I do have the ability to speak well, but I need to be authentic. And I can be more authentic by modeling Brian Tracy than I can Tony Robbins. So I began to model Brian Tracy and to model Charles Stanley. Whenever I would give presentations or preach or teach, I would model those guys because they brought out my best self. So you have to ask yourself the question, do I have the innate and or can I create, right? Can I work on, can I develop the ability to do this? So certain things we can't do or we can't do well right now, but we can develop, we can learn how to do it at extremely high levels, even genius levels. So I said, yes, I do have the ability to speak well, but I need to model this kind of a person to get to that level as opposed to modeling this other guy. Ability, right? And then the third is passion. So this is almost like a checklist. You got to check off all three. And we'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Am I passionate about this? Is this something I really, really, really want to do? Do I feel like I need to do this? Because if you're not passionate, but it's meaningful, you're like, you know what? This is important to me, and this is important to other people. This can help other people. I have the ability to do this, but I'm not that passionate about it. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to run out of steam and jump over to doing something else. And you'll keep jumping around, kind of floating around, looking for and trying to do a whole bunch of different things because what it is that you're trying to do, you're not passionate about it. So you don't have that fire, you don't have that drive, that motivation, the energy that you need to put behind it. It's like fuel to keep you going. So you have to check all three. Now you can be passionate about something, you can have the ability to do it, but if it's not meaningful, then the market may not pay you for it. There may not be a need for it in the market. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, right? It could just be a hobby, something you just like to do. Might be meaningful for you, but not other people. That's okay. But if it's something that you want to get paid for, right, then it needs to have that intersection between it's meaningful to me and it's meaningful to the market, and the market can and is willing to pay me for this. So got to check off, okay, I'm passionate about it. I can do it. It's meaningful to me and it's meaningful to other people. What if it's meaningful, I'm passionate, but I don't have the ability, like I just suck at it and it's really difficult for me to learn it. I don't even really want to learn it, but I know it would be a good idea and I'm really passionate about it. Well, probably need to look for something else if you just don't have the ability and just don't see yourself developing that ability. Does this make sense? So it's kind of like a checklist, the M, the A, and the P. So this has a lot to do with why you want to do something. Why do you really want or need to transform your speech? Is it to help your professional life so that you can earn what you feel like you're worth? Is it to help you fulfill your calling? Do you feel drawn to something? Do you feel called to do something? And your speech, your communication skills are standing in the way. If you could just remove that one obstacle, that one barrier, you would feel more fulfilled. You'd be able to walk in your calling. You'd be able to help and serve other people at a much higher level. All right, so we got your professional life, you have your kind of personal, spiritual life, being able to fulfill your calling. Then you have your social life. Will you be able to get out and socialize more? Go out and talk to people, crack jokes, maybe tell stories, have conversations with friends and family, meet new people. Is this something that you've always wanted to do, but your communication skills, your speech has been standing in your way? If so, then you want to be clear, hey, these are the reasons why I want to transform my speech, why I need to transform my speech. And then you want to continuously remind yourself of this, maybe even on a daily basis. This is why I want to do this. For some people, it is a financial thing. You know what? I'm not getting paid what I should. I'm not getting paid what I could. I'm not earning. I don't have the influence that I could have if I were able to communicate better. So this is something I need to do. Just talking with the client yesterday, I think it was, and he said that he said this now. I'm not making this up. For the first time in his life, he was able to have a full, complete conversation with his own father. And when I met this guy, we started just a couple of weeks ago. His speech was pretty severe. And this can happen, especially with certain people, authoritative figures. Sometimes it can be a mother or a father, grandparent. And he said that he's been able to have conversations. His dad, like, what the is going on here? Like, we're actually having a conversation, right? So this has completely changed his personal and social life. He says, I'm now getting phone numbers from women. I'm able to actually go out and talk to women and get phone numbers. He says, this is crazy. It's happening in a short period of time. He's familiar with the system. This isn't something that's temporary. His speech has changed, and it is continuing to change, and it will continue to change. It's not perfect. My speech is not perfect either. No one's is. But he's seeing the change. He's motivated. He's out there speaking. So you got to look at your reasons for wanting to do this, whether they're professional, financial, personal, social, physical. Sometimes people feel sick because they get headaches. They feel anxious all the time. They're stressed all the time because of their speech, their communication skills. So it could be that. For many people, it's a combination of all of those things that I mentioned and more. Sometimes it can pull down your self-esteem and your self-confidence. You just don't feel good about yourself because of your speech. Wow. Well, imagine once you remove that barrier and you're able to now get out and say what you want, when you want, the way you want, right? To anyone that you want, then your self-esteem goes up. You feel more valuable. You feel like you can make a greater contribution to society. And you can go through that, map it, and say, now I'm able to do something that's meaningful to me, to other people. I have the ability to do it, and I'm passionate about it. So I want you to keep these things in mind as you are trying to make changes in different areas of your life. We're talking specifically today just about your speech. Think about map it, think about the MAP model, and also think about why do I want and need to do this, and then keep reminding yourself of that. Okay, so if you're watching this video and you want to accelerate your progress, generally speaking, the fastest way is to work with us privately. Why? Well, because we're going to give you customized, personalized feedback based on our experience, my experience of over 12 years doing this full time. We're going to help you stay accountable, and we're going to keep you encouraged and motivated, right? When you're on your own, sometimes that doesn't happen, but you may want to start with our self-study. Best way to do that is to join our Virtual Speech Masters Club, where you also get access to the self-study and you get to practice under pressure in a safe and supportive environment where you get real-time feedback. So check out the links to those resources in or around this video. Once again, my name is Michael Williams, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about the how.